the understanding that the fulfillment need to be close to the customer house, and the movement into reshoring and onshoring of supply chains and cutting the supply chain, making everything more lean and more and faster is a must today.
You're listening to Ideas Fulfilled, a podcast by Printful Enterprise with your host, Ilse. In this bi-weekly podcast, we'll meet with e-commerce and retail professionals to chat about burning topics in the retail space, as well as the challenges and sweet moments of victory they've experienced in the labyrinth of e-commerce. Today, I'm joined by Sharon Donovich, Marketing Director at Kornit. Kornit produces high-speed industrial inkjet printers, pigmented ink, and chemical products for the garment and apparel, home goods, and textile accessories decorating industry. Since 2017, Printful's been using Kornit direct-to-garment technology to offer high-quality printing to our customers. Sharon will help us delve deeper into the possibilities that DTG printing and Kornit solutions bring to the e-commerce retail industry. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining us. And just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do at Kornit?
So I'm with Kornit for 10 years already. I'm a bit veteran, so I was always in the digital printing. Israel is sort of the mecca of digital printing. So I moved between few companies and landed in Kornit, as I said, 10 years ago, and did few positions, most of them around the product marketing. So I touched almost every product. And nowadays, I'm, I would say, the director of global events and segment marketing. So I know the company pretty well.
It sounds like it. 10 years is a pretty decent time to spend at a company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Must be a nice company then.
Yes, it is.
And can you tell us a little bit about Kornit and what's sort of the elevator pitch for Kornit? What do you do?
Basically, we are a fashion tech company, and we are looking to bring solution to different type of audiences around the fashion and textile industry. We started as, I would say, a startup that was focusing mostly on digital printing on textile, and I'm sure that we'll touch base that later on, because it's different from just digital printing on other substrates or media. And it evolved that we're actually covering the entire spectrum, and really our vision is enabling people from all aspects to print and to create anywhere, anytime, at any quantity, one impression at a time, we call it, and also being the operating system of the fashion and textile industry. So we really offer solutions that covers end-to-end the entire area of textile industry, whether it's software, digital printing systems, of course, inks, different type of applications, dryers, everything end-to-end in that area.
And working with Printful, it's been a while since we worked together as well. And we've mostly sort of interested in the direct-to-garment part of your business, obviously. Could you talk a little bit more about direct-to-garment and what exactly that is and how it differs from other printing methods?
The opportunity to print into finished goods like a t-shirt or a hoodie or a tote bag, it was very labor in analog printing or traditional printing. It's being done mostly with screen printing. And the opportunity to do that as a direct-to-garment, really into the finished good itself, I would say Kornit was one of the pioneers of that. The advantages of doing the direct-to-garment in a digital way is obviously that you're not limited from the traditional technology to huge quantities. With direct-to-garment, you can actually decide what the quantity will be, and it doesn't make a difference. So even a one-off is possible. And this is what is unique about the direct-to-garment. The difference of Kornit from other companies is within our technology and our intellectual property, because we are the only ones that are doing it in what we call a single step, meaning that you cannot print into a fabric, into a substrate with water base, without preparing it for that. Because if you will take a water and we drop it on fabric, it will soak into the fabric. With our technology, we are doing the pre-treatment inside the system as part of the process, and allowing to print what we call wet on wet, the water-based ink on top of the water or the liquid that we are preparing the t-shirt for. And this is what gives our prints durability, vibrance, and the ability to last. So really, this is the unique part of Kornit, of printing directly into garments. And again, garments could be garments, but it could be other finished goods like aprons and, different type of products.
And you mentioned that the printing whole industry has changed during the last, 10, 20 years. And I know that when talking to customers, a lot of them still have quality concerns about direct-to-garment printing. What do you say to that? Do you still find that true, or is it now comparable to, let's say, screen printing?
I would say that it's definitely comparable. So it's always about few factors that actually are the ones that are so important and so meaningful. So one of it is, of course, the vibrance and the colors, okay? With the years, we really put a lot of effort into that, okay? Since we are also producing and developing the consumables, unlike other companies, which are usually, it's a combination. They build a printer, they do, others are doing the consumables. In our case, we are controlling the entire spectrum, okay? And that means that we are actually coupling the inks and the consumables and all our process with the printing process, and everything is aligned together. And that, with the years, developed. And of course, there's nothing like experience. So feedback from customers like Printful about and others about anything, whether it was washability, durability, the colors, the matching of the colors, the hand feel, all those aspects really evolved. You can see in the Kornit latest models that you get not just the basic cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Of course, with Kornit, you have the extended gamut that allows you to cover more color spectrum with red and green. And in addition, additional consumables that make the hand feel, the durability, the washability, everything much more compatible for what the retail and fashion industry are waiting for and demanding. So really, we feel that there is today, what we are offering is definitely compatible with what analog printing is offering.
And I think our customers also see that it's been very big steps for the printing industry in the recent years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Another concern that we often hear from people who are only considering using DTG printing is that it's perhaps less cost efficient. It's cheaper to do things in bulk. So what are your arguments why they still should do DTG printing?
At the end of the day, it's all about business, right? People that are doing that, it's their business. So I don't think that we are saying, no, you need to eliminate completely analog printing or screen printing or traditional way of doing stuff, okay? It has its own market, own justification, although there are some other challenges there, okay, that you need to look at, whether it's sustainability and other factors. We believe, and we see that today, especially with e-commerce, and I'm sure Printful is a big advocate of that, that the world is changing. There will be use cases, okay, business cases, that big belts will make sense, okay? But in many, many other cases, it will not make sense, okay? And it will make more sense to print smaller batches and replenish them, reprint or send to either stores. And again, with e-commerce, all that argument is becoming redundant. And I think, again, to the bulk printing, there is associated many other factors that reduce its viability. The main factor here is, again, the need for lower costs and big quantities, which is many cases is not the case. Again, you don't want to have excessive inventory. It's very difficult to forecast. Today with social media, people are being very influenced by what they want. And today something is the trend and tomorrow people will forget about it. So we believe that traditional printing still has its own use cases and business cases, but in many cases doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I really like the idea of there's a place for both analog and digital printing in the world. What would you say are the challenges and limitations with direct-to-garment printing?
There are cases that business-wise it will be more justified to print large quantities and not necessarily you will return the investment with direct-to-garment. In some cases, there are some of the effects, that are not applicable. Kornit did a lot of progress here, and we have what we call the XDI, which is like what I wear, which is extra dimension printing, 3D printing. So it covers some of it, and we have neon printing, but still there are some effects in traditional printing that you cannot do with digital printing, with direct-to-garment. So, if somebody requires like puff or some suede filling or something, we don't have at the moment the ability to do it. Other than that, I see more advantages to do direct-to-garment than to do traditional. But if you ask me where are the disadvantages, I would say special effects and quantities. I don't think that I can think of other. Again, it's digital printing, so it is straightforward. Of course, like anything, you need to know what to do. But in terms of the technology, the reliability, the stability is much more advanced than when I came, 10 years ago. It is completely in a different situation. So on that sense, I would feel very comfortable for people that are looking into direct-to-garment and looking at technology. I don't see any other limitations.
I'm sure that all those effects as well, probably just a matter of time until we can do that with digital.
Absolutely. And also in terms of these effects, it's always very dependent on trends, right? Like suddenly somebody wants to see only the writing only when you are in the dark or something. So it's really very trendy. It really depends on trends.
And you also, at Kornit, you follow those trends and try to adjust what you're doing with those printers to match them?
Yes, of course. So neon, for example, we saw that there is a market, there is a need, people are asking for it. So we added, for example, to our Atlas Max Poly, which is the one that is printing on polyester into polyester. And there is a lot of demand for neon over there. So we added neon colors. The XDI is something that people also wanted special effects. So absolutely, we are looking into those needs and trying to bring solutions and offer enhancement to customers.
Yeah, and you mentioned the polyester printer. I think that wasn't something that you could do even like 5 years ago, printing directly on polyester.
Right. So polyester is really a huge segment. The reason that it was always challenging is that there is this type of effect that is called dye migration. When you print into polyester and you need to dry the print after you printed it, the dye of the t-shirt itself, because of the heat of the dryer, it's becoming evaporated into the print itself. And we solve that again with chemicals, unique chemicals and process for that Kornit printer has. And that solves the dye migration, and you can actually cure in lower temperature and get amazing results, okay? So this is a huge market and great opportunity. And we believe that this solution for a market that had limitations in the way that it could print into garments is a great benefit.
Yeah, sounds like it, definitely. How do you think in general direct-to-garment printing is changing the retail and e-commerce industry?
The e-commerce industry was always ahead of, and I call it the front end, okay? Because this is what the end customer sees. It's very advanced. It's very AI. People are getting into something and they get suggestions, what to buy, how to buy, etc. It's very advanced, the front end. The back end itself is still like 100 years back in time, okay? And I think that the ability to serve this market instead of having this, and this is like what Printful are doing, right? Instead of having inventory and offer only what you have on the shelves in your warehouse, the ability to print while the order is coming in is something that was impossible without direct to garment. And I think that changing or reversing this supply chain from supply and demand to demand and supply. So first come the demand, your customers are asking for something, and only then come the supply, meaning that you are actually fulfilling the order only after it was already paid. And this is possible only when you are, transforming to digital and moving and shifting the backend to be more modern and up to date. The understanding that the fulfillment need to be close to the customer house, and the movement into reshoring and onshoring of supply chains and cutting the supply chain, making everything more lean and more and faster is a must today, because again, the customers and the consumers are also demanding, because we taught them that they can get something back to their home at 3 days, and they are willing to pay for that. We need to be able to fulfill it in that way.
Yeah, I love the comparison of like a very neat front end and a very old back end at the moment. That's a really good way of putting it. You mentioned before as well the sustainability aspect of digital printing. How important is that for Kornit as a company?
So for us, it was on our flag from day one. Okay, this was definitely one. When we started, like even before, as like Kornit is a little bit older than 20, we started with a solvent-based ink. And we switched very, very fast, many years before I came, to pigment ink, because pigment ink is sustainable, okay? And for us, sustainability is not just a word. It's very, very important. Not lately, we just added another certification and regulation, Bluesign, to our what we offer to customers. And for us, it's very important that we follow this regulation. And I think that in generally, it's something that becomes more and more important, not only to producers or to manufacturers, because they have to, okay, because they get a loan from the bank today only if they will purchase sustainable technology and so on and so forth, but also to the end consumer. The new generations that are more concerned, they understand and they care how what they wear was produced. The weight of a sustainable product will get higher and higher in the decision making of what I'm wearing and what I'm buying.
Yeah, I agree. We also see that from customers that they choose more eco-friendly products as well. They care that the thing is produced actually on demand, not that there's a huge inventory that might not get sold out after a couple of weeks. It is very important. How do you ensure that you stay sustainable? Is it certificates, or what are the processes that you have in place?
We have a team that is actually taking care of that. Okay, so we look on all the time. So our chemistry team, for example, have a dedicated person that is looking only at regulations and certifications, making sure that the ingredients and what we use is compliant. And also the processes themselves. We have a very large CTO team, and they are looking all the time that the future and the innovation that we are bringing is compliant with sustainability aspects and everything. Of course, we have our ESG report, that everybody can download and see what we are talking about. We are really committed to sustainability. We have our goals of sustainability, and it's out there for the public.
That's really great to hear. What are the future plans for Kornit? What exciting things you can share with us at the moment, what you're working on?
We are going to unveil our smart dryers. Okay. Here again, we are actually bringing technology that is very advanced, very innovative. And the idea is that we want to, again, reduce the amount of electricity and the carbon footprint that our customers are using. It's a very innovative and unique way of drying and curing garments. So this is one innovation that we are bringing very soon.
Sorry, to quickly jump in for the listeners who are perhaps not as familiar with the process, what is the drying and curing? What does it mean?
Okay, so once the garment was printed, okay, it's wet, okay? You cure it, you need to dry it. So actually the process is that when you put it on, it's like sort of an oven. You can actually do pizza inside it as well. We did it in few shows, but actually it's a dryer, okay? It has a belt. We put the shirt on the belt and it goes inside this dryer. And inside the dryer, there are two processes that are happening. The first one is that we actually dry the t-shirt from the pre-treatment that I was talking about in the beginning. So we first evaporate the pre-treatment and then we cure the printing. What this curing process is doing is that it looks this amazing after I washed it for hundreds of times, okay? It allows the ink to bond and to cure into the fabric itself, because actually it is printed on top of the t-shirt, right? But we want to make sure that it will look amazing like that. And again, I swear, I washed it hundreds of times, and I hope that you can see that it's amazing.
It's very bright, and vibrant.
It's very bright, and this is what happens. Okay, again, we have special consumables that makes it, stay like that. But this is what happens, and our new dryers are very unique because they know to do this process in a very effective and unique way. So this is one. And in June, we are going to participate in the largest textile manufacturing show, which is called ITMA. This show happens every 4 years.
Like Olympics.
It's like the Olympics, yeah, absolutely, of the textile industry. It happens every 4 years. This year it happens in Milano, okay, in Italy. And last 2019 it was in Barcelona, so it switched between Barcelona and Iran. And we are going to have a huge booth there, okay? And we are going to showcase and unveil our latest technology, okay? We talked a little bit about it already in other places, so I would say the name. It is called Apollo. And this system is bringing really unique capabilities that were never seen before in the direct-to-garment and in general in the textile industry, okay? Because it's a mini production line, okay, that you can have one operator, single operator, in a very easy way, produce hundreds of t-shirts per hour, almost in an automatic way. I invite everybody that here and is have the opportunity to join this show to come and visit. In addition, we are going to showcase a lot of other stuff, a lot of innovation in that booth, many of other systems and other technology that we are bringing. And it's going to be massive, very beautiful, going to showcase many collections, whether it's fashion, sportswear, streetwear, everything that you can think of, application and products. So there's a lot to wait and to see in that show, and we really hope that we'll have a great momentum there. We're sure that we're going to have, but this Apollo, the Apollo system is, I would say, a huge step and a huge advancement in this direct-to-garment industry.
Well, it sounds like a very good reason to visit Milan in June.
Absolutely.
Nice.
You're more than welcome.
So if our listeners want to find out more information about Kornit or connect with you, where should they go?
Okay, so first we have a very beautiful website, You can see in the website, first of all, which applications and products we are enabling and what can be printed with us. And of course, we're all over the, social media. So you can meet us in Instagram. We just had an amazing fashion week, Kornit Fashion Week in Tel Aviv. So go and check it out. It's so beautiful. Many of the collections were done with Kornit technology. So more than welcome to see us. You can find me in LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect with anyone and answer any question. And other Kornit people, I'm sure. So really all over the place.
Great. Good to hear. Well, thank you very much for joining us and for talking about Kornit. It sounds like you have a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Can't wait to see all about it.
Yes. See you in ITMA.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to our conversation with Sharon Donovich from Kornit. If you want to work with Printful, check the episode description. You'll find all the necessary links and information there. And don't forget to tune in for the next episode of Ideas Fulfilled by Printful Enterprise.